Hello everybody, welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United transfer news as talk of a swap deal involving Manuel Ugarte and Jadon Sancho hots up across numerous outlets. We'll also be talking about a failed bid from Italy for Scott McTominay. What's that all about? And on top of that, we will be talking about Harry Maguire, what's happening with him and why he probably won't be leaving Manchester United and doesn't want to leave Manchester United. And a very important issue, I want to talk about left back. We're being linked to people like Marcos Alonso and, short-term loan deals to cover for Luke Shaw and Malacia. When do we think we're getting those two players back? Is it not time we woke up and realised short-term fixes at left-back don't work? We tried this last year with Reguilon, it blew up in our face. It's time to get real about left-back. Anyway, let's get into the show. Hope you're doing well. Sorry it wasn't a 2 o'clock show today, but I was over with Ben Foster doing the football fill-in Premier League preview, and it went on for bloody ages. It was a good show, though, so we had to push this one back. It is time to get real, Oscar. Hope you're doing well. It's also time for the preview. I don't normally do the preview live, but it's the first game of the season, and whilst we'll be picking a team together at 8 o'clock, I also think there's season issues that will develop from that, and also transfer issues as well. Will you wear a Sanderberg shirt if he joins? Says Ryan. No, but I'll wipe my arse with it. I'm only joking. Anyway, let's get straight into it. Manchester Evening News and The Independent both talking this afternoon about a Jadon Sancho and Ugarte swap deal. This is starting to move around this Sancho and Ugarte symmetry. I don't know whether I like it. But first of all, on a more positive and credible outlet, Fabrizio Romano has said Manchester United do have alternatives to Manuel Ugarte, but they are 100% certain that Manuel Ugarte is the right player for them. So what do we read into that? We can't buy him at the moment. He is the player that we want. But could a swap deal factor into that? Well, let's start off about this Sancho-Ugarte swap deal story first of all. Many of you mentioned it on the morning show, actually, so I'm not going to flip-flop on this one. I personally, you can never rule it out, but I personally don't think we will see a straight swap between Ugarte and Sancho. They're massively problematic, and they also do not help you out when it comes to financial fair play because there's all sorts of litigation and rules about it. What you'd want to do, you'd be better off giving £40 million for Ugarte to PSG and then giving that £40 million straight back to us for Sancho, rather than actually having a proper swap deal. So, look, it does feel at the moment like there's a lot of talk about Sancho to PSG. There's a lot of talk about Ugarte to Manchester United. We know we need to sell to buy, or we need PSG to drop that price considerably, which they probably won't do. So it feels like, from what's been reported this afternoon, that there's a lot of talk at the moment around Sancho going to PSG and Man United taking Ugarte from them. Now remember, we know George Mendes, the super agent that sorted the Euro deal out for us and sorted the João Neves deal out for them. We know he's massively involved in this. And being a super agent means that he's a very good agent, and he is probably going to be very good at figuring out a deal that benefits everybody and also makes himself money, because if no deal happens, he doesn't make money, and money makes the football world go round. So I think that there will be some sort of way for this to work. I also think it's important to remember that upwards of 5 weeks ago, we heard that Man United were having talks with PSG about multiple players. Well, multiple means more than one, and the only one we've ever been really aware of is Ugarte and potentially Sancho. So, yeah, this is something that hopefully will develop. I think it may take a bit of time, but hopefully it will develop. Now, what I would say is I would like to see United complete a deal for Ugarte for about 40 million, and then maybe in a couple of weeks we sell them Sancho for 25 or 30. I don't mind that happening. I'd quite like to see that that happen. But more importantly, where I have a little bit of nervousness, I suppose, is Sancho ain't an easy deal to do, whether it's PSG, Juventus, Dortmund or Saudi. It's not an easy deal to do. And what I don't want to do is I don't want Man United to be locked into Sancho, PSG, we get Ugarte, because that makes the Ugarte deal very, very, very uncertain. I just want us to get this Ugarte deal done. And if Sancho ends up going to PSG, Sancho ends up going to PSG. But I really do just want us to get the Ugarte deal done, and I don't want it to be locked into Sancho, if that makes sense. All right, Mark, saw Martinez interview on BBC, mentioned De Ligt, keywords playing from the back and defending high, beaming from ear to ear hearing this, says Jack Fraser. And if Ugarte takes too long, should we focus on a left back, says Phil. No, I think we focus on Ugarte because he's the player that we want. I'm going to come back to what Jack just said there about what Martinez said about De Ligt as well, because it is very important. Do you think we can win the Europa League and get top four, says Beans on Toast? I think that for me is what I would call a good season. I don't think it's a demand. I don't think it's the minimum, but it's probably the maximum. Winning the Europa League and getting top four is probably what we should be aiming to do this season. But it was interesting what Roy Keane said, actually, because he said, although Man United seem to have a good squad, he still worries about the spine. A lot of teams ran through our midfield last year, and I'm still worried about that as well. I think Roy's absolutely correct. I think that the high line won't automatically make Casemiro a world-class holding midfielder. I still think he's prone to inaccurate passing, not picking up the runners, being a little bit slow. You know, we still will get broken on at times. So I still think that the spine of the team is... I think the spine of the team will be better with De Ligt and Martinez, but I still have concerns about Casemiro, I've got to admit, which is why I think Ugarte is such an important deal. But look, going back to that previous comment about Martinez, I did tweet about it earlier. Look, I'm not here to... I think we're here for proper conversation. That's why people are here. But Andre's just done it for me. Tim Sherwood saying De Ligt isn't better than Maguire. I'm sick and tired of this. Also, Mourinho is a genius if he brings players he worked with, but Ten Hag is a hack for it, says Andre. I think that I would... Oh, I'll just answer this one quick and then we'll come back to that. Paulson says, just bought your book. Thank you very much for buying the book. Everyone who's buying that, links in the chat. I hope you're really enjoying it. Haven't seen Beth on the show recently. Hope everything is okay. Everything is absolutely fine. Beth did a fantastic job in the States. And, you know, as much as it doesn't feel like it, because we do shows every day, people are entitled to annual leave when they work. Well, they're entitled to annual leave anyway. And when she finished in LA, she's moved over to the northeast coast and is spending a bit of time with family, but she's back tomorrow. So everything... she's back tomorrow. I think she's doing a show with Ricky tomorrow as well. So, yeah, looking forward to that. Tim, hopefully I've done all right without her. You know, I'm sorry if you've missed her. Tim Sherwood saying De Ligt isn't better than Maguire. Well, I do want to talk about this very, very quickly because we've got some other transfer news to come in around McTominay and the left back. I mean, look, on Harry Maguire, this is completely separate, but... Harry Maguire apparently is not eager to leave Manchester United and feels he's still got an important role to play at the club. Does he? Does he really? I think Harry Maguire's whole career at Man United from today is dependent on our medical staff. I think if we have injuries in the back four, he will play games of football. I think if we have Yoro and De Ligt fit, he won't play football at all. So I think Maguire is going to have to accept that he's fourth choice. If Ten Hag picks Maguire over De Ligt, why have we bought De Ligt? If Ten Hag picks Maguire over Yoro, why have we bought Yoro? You know, now is the time for none of this, you know, bullshit about working hard in training and fighting for your place. Now is the time for, you've bought these players, make them fucking work. Like, you know, all right, we'll give you Anthony. It didn't quite work out yet. But with De Ligt and Yoro, none of this... You know, I'm sure we'll hear it in press conferences because people will ask it. They love to ask a question about Maguire. And I'm sure Ten Hag will say, look, he's a very important player and, you know, he'll be fighting for his place, etc. But, you know, come on, let's get real. If everybody's fit now, Maguire doesn't play and he'll lose his England spot. So that's up to him, isn't it? But Tim Sherwood, who is on Sky Sports. Now, I don't watch Sky Sports News. If you do, that's up to you. Some people like to watch bad things. You know, some people enjoy Mrs. Brown's Boys. I'm working on a higher level. I don't watch Sky Sports News. I think it's terrible comparable to what it used to be. Tight jeans, white trainers, and bad opinions. But I did get the clip from Tim Sherwood. And Tim Sherwood's crap. I don't know why Sky put him on. Maybe it's, you know, they've got to put quotas of ex-players on and that's all they can afford. I don't know. But... he comes out with complete shit most of the time. This is absolutely incredible. So basically said, I don't know why Man United have bought De Ligt. Is he really any better than Maguire? As I've said to you before, the problem with this is that we're a community and you'll take the piss out of me and I might take the piss out of you. But we're not pretending to be a mainstream broadcaster with Premier League rights. I'd like to, but we don't. So when you've got Premier League rights, you should have an air of credibility and an air of authority. And at the very, very basic level, you should get people to... If I own Sky Sports News and I'm paying millions for broadcasting rights, the last thing I want to do is put a prat on my main sports channel. I mean, De Ligt's not an improvement on Harry Maguire. What are we just talking about now? Are we just talking about passports, or are we having a proper football chat, Tim? Like, every team in the Premier League that's successful plays with two centre-backs that will take the ball off their goalkeeper and defend one-on-one with a striker and play on a high line. Victor Lindelof and Harry Maguire can't do that. De Ligt can. There endeth the lesson. What are you comparing Maguire to De Ligt for? They're completely different centre-backs with completely different capabilities. If you want someone to play centre-back for Stoke in 2010, get Harry Maguire, be bloody brilliant. Superb in the air, defend your box, happy days. If you want to play like Man City or Liverpool, you go and get someone like De Ligt. It's as simple as that. And it's terrifying just how bad some of these pundits are at analysing the game they used to play. But you know what? Paul Gascoigne's one of the most talented players I've ever seen. I don't think he can tell you what a high line is. In fact, I think what he thinks is a high line is probably something you snort. So I don't think just because you played football, it means you know what you're talking about. And it's just another bad example of crappy British media who do not watch football and don't understand it. And, you know, that's not even not watching De Ligt. That's not watching Man United and understanding what's been the problem with our defensive line. I mean, I don't think many of them do watch European football. I just think they see somebody who's small and go, he's too small. Or they hear a name and go, I don't like that name. But that's not even about De Ligt. That's about Man United. That's not understanding what Man United's problem is. I mean, anybody can tell you what Man United's problem was last season. The line was too deep. The attack was too high. And the midfield was wide open. And we were defending the edge of our box, so we were conceding a lot of shots. How do you counter-attack that? You've got to get your line higher. You need centre-backs who can do that. Easy. Another quick one, says Jack. If we play higher, do you think our counter-attacking style will go? Also, who your key player to watch this season, development-wise, or impact to general play? I think Lisandro Martinez is massively important for Man United because he's the only left-sided centre-back we've got and he's the only one who we can know who can play out progressively from the back and get the line up. We've not seen De Ligt yet. Who do I think can develop? I think Collier is the obvious one, maybe Amas. Julian says, Ollie created a generation of British players with no ambition or mentality. Always blame shifting and nothing to prove because they started every week, says Julian. And Harry Maguire is more delusional than Arsenal fans, says Attil. Mark, I'm getting married in 8 weeks and in the evening for my karaoke, I'm playing Caladu rap, singing your song. The Voice, here we go. Once it's played, says Son. Well, enjoy yourself. Can we put Ricky in the transfer window, says Parker. You haven't even seen Ricky for about 3 months. That's a bit harsh. That's a bit harsh, that is. That is a bit harsh. Anyway, next bit of news. Di Marzio reporting that Napoli approached Manchester United and put an offer in for Scott McTominay to take him on loan. Man United have rejected that bid. Is it also quite telling that Man United's Twitter account had Scott McTominay as the picture in the third kit today at some point? I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Scott McTominay. I mean, on the one hand, we're making really progressive moves in the transfer market. On the other hand, we still seem to be attracted to the past, which will drag us down. You can't accept a loan deal for Scott McTominay. Absolutely not. You can't accept a loan deal for Scott McTominay because he's only got 1 year left on his bloody deal for a start. So, look, it is a bid rejected if it's true. There has been reported interest from Napoli. Di Marzio saying that there's been a loan bid rejected. We can't loan Scott McTominay. We need the money. We can't be loaning players with 1 year left on their contract either. I've always said I'll believe it when I see it when McTominay leaves. I desperately think he should leave. I think McTominay hinders so many people by staying. I think it'll hinder Mason Mount. I think, how is Mason Mount going to get on the pitch off the bench when Scott McTominay is always going to be the last 20-minute option that Ten Hag loves to throw on? That will hinder Mason Mount. It might hinder people like Ahmad as well, because Scott McTominay's an attacking option. It might hinder Xerxes. I think we've got more than enough attacking options now. You know, Scott McTominay for a bit of height, Xerxes 6'3". You know, I think McTominay can't play holding midfield, so forget that. He can't play as a number 8 because he doesn't pick up the runners. McTominay has to be used what he was good at last season, which was getting in and around the box and scoring goals. But we've got players who can do that now. He hinders Rasmus, says Shane Smith. You've got Xerxes, who is an attacking sort of false 9, etc. You've got Mount, who plays that role. I think it's time to say goodbye to Scott McTominay, but we can't do it on loan. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say we should have accepted a loan deal. We can't do that. But we do need to try and move him on because there's profit there. And he's not a first-team player. So when you need to raise money, you can't just go, oh, he's a good lad and he's a good lad to have from the bench. That's exactly the sort of player that you move on. So hopefully that can still happen, but I agree we can't do it on a loan. Mark, what's the least you'd take for McTominay? Says like Schofield. Surely we've just got to get rid of him now before we end up keeping him. Well, if we don't get rid of him, we'll give him a new contract, and then we'll be stuck with him for another 2 or 3 years. And in 2 or 3 years' time, he's 30, which means he's basically had a whole career here, which I find incredible. I think you've got to take 25 for McTominay. I think that's probably what he's worth with a year left on his contract. I think that's probably about right. Connor Dave says, genius move. Eric Ten Hag should put Sancho at left back and say impresses. Peacock Falcon says, thank you very much for your super chat. £10. Thank you very much. Says, I love the bark. Sorry, I love the bark. I love the book, Mark, says Peacock. I'm only 19, so I've heard about the 99 Champions League final from family, but you described it perfectly. I've now quit rugby and started playing football. Glory, glory, Man United. Lovely stuff, mate. Lovely stuff. Also, McTominay placing club is one of the biggest myths as United won. And I think we'll sell Sancho, which is really good if it happens, says Savage. And is Sancho a Dortmund player? Look at his Instagram, says United Stand. And I saw Amrabat wearing the new home kit on the official app. Does it mean something? He's not been removed, whereas Wan-Bissaka has been deleted, says Cost. I've got no idea why Amrabat would be in the new kit on the Man United website. And I don't know whether it's true. But Mario Franco says, text Rasmus and get MDL4 away from pink boots. Get Delete away from Maguire. I don't know why Amrabat would be in the new kit. And I don't know why Amrabat would be on the website. Because he's not a Man United player. Like, he's not a player that we're trying to sell. He's not a Man United player. His loan ended on June the 30th. He shouldn't be anywhere near a new kit. And he shouldn't be anywhere near the website. So I don't know whether that's true, but Amrabat shouldn't be anywhere near it because he's not a Man United player. He's a Fiorentina player. Samuel says, why are you alone? But where's Beth to help you? She's back tomorrow, Samuel. Stay Scott. I don't want to start the McTominay stands, as Robert McCormack. And Effie has gifted a membership. You're an absolute legend, mates. Thank you very much. Let's talk about left back. You know what? I think this is probably going to be the most passionate part of this stream for me because I was reading about the left back this afternoon, and they were basically saying that United are looking at options. And I can't remember what article I was reading. It may have been the Manchester Evening News. It may have been the Independent because I was looking at some of their stuff this afternoon about the swap deal. It might have been somewhere else, to be fair. But it basically said that Ten Hag is looking to bring in a left back who can do a job until Malacia and Shaw are available again. Now, I'm not saying that Ten Hag has said that. Maybe he has, maybe he hasn't. But what I am saying is that theory is so dangerous and needs calling out. We cannot bring in Marcus Alonso or some stopgap like Reguilon until Luke Shaw or Malacia are available. Because in that sentence is a glaring mistake. Until Malacia and Luke Shaw are available. When are we going to wake the fuck up and realise that until Malacia and Shaw is available is the biggest mistake you'll ever make? Malacia hasn't played for 18 months. And I think people think he's better than he was before that. He was a young left back who was brought in to potentially be a backup to Luke Shaw. He never proved that before he had a bad injury. And people still think Malacia can be our starting left back. He'd never proved he was good enough before the injury. So why do you think he's going to be good enough now? And I'm not, you know, I hope he is. But what I'm saying is, with complete and utter honesty, had Malacia proved himself before the injury? And the answer is no. I remember that season, and people were going mad at Malacia being out of position or playing people onside. He didn't have a particularly good season the season before the injury. There were high points and there were low points, but he didn't have a particularly good one. So, especially towards the end. He's then missed what will be nearly 18 months of football, and people think he can be a left-back for Man United. I would say at this moment in time, 17-year-old Harry Amas, I'd be more confident in him than I would be in Malacia at the moment, because I don't think he particularly proved himself before, and he's been out for so long, I'll be surprised if he ever plays decent football again, because it's such a significant long time to be out. And then you've got Luke Shaw, who, if anybody thinks he's ever going to play more than 60% of a season, they're having a bloody laugh. I'll have a pint of what you're having. Across his whole I mean, I can't believe this. This was you lot last night. Across his whole time at Man United, he hasn't been available for 60% of our games. And he's only getting older. So across his whole career at Man United, and he's been here for what? 9 years? In 9 years, he's missed nearly 50% of our games across his whole 20s. He's never going to be available for more than 60% of our games any season he's here. So why are we looking at a left back to do a short-term fix till they get back? They're never going to be back. They're never going to be back. So I'm not falling into that trap of, oh, Alonso's a good short-term deal or Reguilon's a good term deal. We need to have an honest conversation here, because we don't. We don't have the honest conversation. We drift between agendas. Oh, you can't have a pop at Luke Shaw because he's not Paul Pogba. You know, it's not his fault. He's unlucky he's injured. Yeah, we can bring Alonso in as a short term for when we get Malacia and Shaw back. We did this in bloody January. We sent Reguilon back because Ten Hag was told by the medical team that Malacia and Shaw would be back. And they bloody weren't. We've got to call it for what it is. There's genuine issues in that team, and one of them is left back. Malacia and Shaw cannot be relied upon. We need to buy a left back who can play every week. We might have to play Martinez left back against Fulham. That's an absolute joke. That is putting our best centre back at left back in the first game of the season. Yeah, he'll do a job, but it's only the same as putting fucking Amrabat there last year. We shouldn't be putting one of our best players out of position. It's as bad as putting Casemiro at centre back last season. We shouldn't be doing it. We need to buy a left back. We can't do short-term fixes because Luke Shaw might be fit in September. How much money do you want me to give to charity? I'll tell you what, right here, right now, clip me up, happy to do it. Hopefully Luke Shaw will hear it. I will give 500 quid to charity. We'll think of the charity. We'll do a vote on December the 24th. I'll give 500 quid of my own money to charity on December the 24th if Luke Shaw stays fit from the moment he comes back from this injury to Christmas Eve. The charity doesn't have to give me money. That would be wrong. You know, I don't get anything if I'm right. But we will not... I'm very, very... I'd love to give that money to charity. I mean, no one's getting any Christmas presents if I've got to find 500 quid. You can clip it if you like. I'll remember myself. I will give £500 to charity on Christmas Eve if Luke Shaw stays fit from mid-September when he's meant to be back to Christmas Eve. It won't happen. I'll love it to happen. It won't happen. It won't happen. Mikhail says 5,000. Mate, I'm not Luke Shaw. I can't afford £5,000. I mean, Luke Shaw can bloody afford it. Maybe he can as well. But that won't happen. It won't happen, unfortunately. There's no way. And you know why it won't happen? Because he's missed 50% of his game. Well, not 50%, but he's missed, like, I don't know. Somebody said it yesterday. How many games has he missed out of every game he could have been available for? So we need to buy left back, in short. For all the glamour about charity and everything like that, we need to buy left back. There's no point getting Marcus Alonso. And I know Mazraoui can play at left back, and he can play at left back. But if you play Mazraoui at left back, then we need to buy a right back. I know Mazraoui can play at left back. There's a lot of people saying it. But if you play Mazraoui at left back and you play Dalot at right back, what happens when Dalot gets sent off or injured? Who's playing at right back? What happens if Mazraoui gets sent off or injured? Who's playing at left back? At the moment, our only two fit fullbacks are Mazraoui and Dalot. That's it. Amaz is 17. We've got two fullbacks. We actually need at least 4. We need to buy a left back. We need a backup right winger, says Nitish. Do we? Ahmad, Anthony, Garnacho, Rashford. Still got Sancho. We don't really need a right winger at the moment. Look, we did want one. We did want Elise. Delete is slow. Wouldn't he affect a high line, says Effie. I mean, we're just not going to answer your question, mate, because life's too short. Shaw has missed 264 games between United and the England team. Love Shaw, but we need a left back, says that guy Beto92. I agree. You know, I was reading some of the comments this morning. They were like, oh, you're just a Luke Shaw hater. I'm like, I'm absolutely the opposite, but I don't do player FC. I do what's best for Man United. You can't rely on Luke Shaw anymore. I don't care whether you got pictures on his wall or not. I think he's a fantastic left back, but you can't rely on him. And, you know, he shouldn't have gone and played for England. We should have listened to Mourinho about Shaw, says Orlif. Well, no, we shouldn't have listened to Mourinho about Luke Shaw, because Luke Shaw actually, after Mourinho, proved Mourinho wrong by being a very, very good left back. I mean, he was called Shawberto Carlos for a couple of years, wasn't he? The problem is the injuries and the selfishness of going to play for England never should have happened. You know, when you're a player that's missed nearly half your games in your Man United career, you don't put your body on the line to go and play for England when your club pays your wages and you've not played with them since February. And the longer we move away from this injury, the more clear it becomes that going to play for England was a bloody disgrace. And it's fucked us up at the start of the season. If we lose to Fulham on Friday night because Martinez gets torn a new one by whoever's on their right back position, the right wing position, whose fault's that? Ain't bloody Martinez's fault for doing a job at left back, is it? We should, no wonder the transfer windows are always a mess. The club doesn't know which players are even part of the club, e.g. Amrabat's a Fiorentina player being featured on the website. Well, maybe this is true, because Alien's saying it as well. Maybe it is true, but I mean, I find that incredible. Are our fitness department City fans, or have we just got no squad depth for all the injuries? Worried this season, says Jack. You know what? Just talking about the injuries, like, we are very, very thin on the ground at fullback already. We're very thin on the ground up front already with the Rasmus injury. And we're very thin on the ground at number 6 already, if anything happens to Casemiro. So we have made positive moves in this transfer window, but we are already, before a ball's kicked, very thin on the ground up front, very thin on the ground at number 6, and very, very thin on the ground at fullback. And we haven't even kicked a ball yet. The only thing that slightly goes in our favour is that for the first 3 weeks of the season, you only play 1 game a week. So we've actually only got 3 games of football in the next 5 weeks. Because if you think about it, we play Friday, the following Saturday against Brighton, the following Sunday against Liverpool, then there's an international break, and then you've got your next game. So hopefully we can get some business done and get some players back. German media and fans see the De Ligt deal as a huge loss for Bayern Munich, says United Stand. German YouTuber Calcio Berlin did a great review on their channel, Natural Leader. You know what? I was talking to Ben Foster about this today, and he was talking about Manchester United under Sir Alex Ferguson, how the team had so many leaders through the years, whether you start off with people like Schmeichel, Paul Ince, Dennis Irwin, Steve Bruce, Gary Pallister, Eric Cantona, Mark Hughes, Roy Keane, through the 99 team, into people like, you know, obviously some of those players were still there, but Schmeichel, Beckham, Neville, Giggs, you know, and then all the way through to the end of Sir Alex Ferguson's reign, when you've got the likes of Ferdinand, Vidic, Van Nistelrooy was there. Obviously, he was a leader as well. Van Persie, Rooney. So many leaders, so many leaders. You can't put a price on a leader in the modern game. There's less of them. You don't get many Terrys, Vidic's, Gerrards anymore. De Ligt is old school. De Ligt is quite a rarity in the modern game. He is a born leader. Like, we've seen that in what he did at Ajax. That in itself for me is massive. If it works. I just check Amrabat is on the app in the new kit. Don't get it, Chris. Don't get it. Unless it's some deal we've done that we're not aware of. Don't understand why. It's like Sabitzer being on the app last summer. He left us after a loan. Imagine if Sabitzer this time last year was wearing the new kit on the Man United app. It wouldn't make any sense. Amrabat's a Fiorentina player. It doesn't make any sense. Wiggly says, I fear that we will extend Maguire's contract because Ineos wouldn't want him to leave for free. He is going into his final year this season. If we extend his contract, mate, Ineos are bloody idiots. They won't do it. He's on 190 grand a week. He can't extend a ridiculous wage. It's become so obvious how much more valuable Fred was for United as United won. Well, Fred's more valuable than McTominay because he can actually play as a 6 and an 8, whereas we found out last season McTominay's best position is a 10. He's not actually a midfielder. Also, our fitness department have done that one. Hi, Mark. Can you call Fabio a prat? You're a legend, mate, says Steve Brown. Fabio, you're a prat. And Daniel says, what do you rate the transfer window so far? Well, what do you all rate the transfer window so far? Effie says, does a player's contract terminate after handing a transfer request in? Meanwhile, De Ligt is slow in FIFA, just winding you up, Mark. Ugarte, here we go. Thank you, Effie. Lots of people giving it a 6. A few people giving it a 7. A few people giving it a 6.5. I'm trying to think. I mean, it's a great question, actually. And I have to be very careful because this is the sort of thing those people who watch the United stand, who are weird, who don't like it, and clip it up to put on their Twitter to slag me off, but watch, welcome, love. Right, okay. Right, I think the simple, quick answer is I don't think we could achieve a 9 out of 10 in this transfer window because a 9 out of 10 you'd have to do the thing we all know needs to happen. You've got to go and sell a player that we know we're not going to sell. You've got to do the sacrificial lamb. You've got to go. You need to go because you've got to do the outrageous transfer. You've got to get rid of the player that probably has had their chance and does need to go. That could be 4 or 5 players for you. Could be 4 or 5 players for me. They're never going to do that. Also, they're never going to rebuild Rome in one transfer window. So I think a 9 is unachievable. I really, really do. I think an 8.5 is achievable, and I'll tell you how. An 8.5 for me would be Branthwaite, De Ligt and Yoro, rebuilding your whole centre-back roster. A left-back, right-back's Mazraoui, Ugarte, Xerxes, and another midfielder. That would be 8 players. That would put it to 8.5 for me, but it's not just about incomings. You've got Greenwood gone. Sancho's got to go. Wan-Bissaka's already gone. Donny's already gone. Lindelof's got to go. Maguire's got to go. McTominay's got to go. And Eriksen's got to go. And Casemiro's got to go. That, with the incomings and the outgoings, would be 8.5. The reality of where we are at the moment, Mazraoui, De Ligt, Xerxes, Yoro, Greenwood, Van der Beek, Kambuala, Wan-Bissaka. I feel like we're halfway towards an 8. But at the moment, I'd give it a 6, 6.5. Because you've still got Sancho, Lindelof, Eriksen, Casemiro, McTominay, Maguire. 6 players. You've got to get rid of at least 4 of them. And you've still got Ugarte, another midfielder, a left-back, and maybe another signing to do. So for me, 6.5 is probably where I'm at the moment. We can still go higher. We can still go higher. We could easily get close to an 8, which would be good for a first transfer window. But you've got to get more people out the door and obviously more people in the door. But this is where I would say you can't give a fair reflection until the end of the window because 6.5 doesn't sound that good. But I'd say 6.5 with an upwards trajectory. I don't think it's going to stabilise at 6.5. And I don't think it can drop any further than that either. I think if the window closed with this, I'd still say I might drop it to a 6. But I think 6.5 with an upward trend is where I'm at the moment. Who would you have to replace Shaw in that case, says Matt? I mean, the left-back market is quite difficult. There's a lot of people who like Kadioglu. I like Gutierrez at Girona. I like Anton. I like Robinson at Fulham. I'd be very happy with him. Yeah, I really would be very happy with him. I mean, there are a lot of left-backs out there where you can go quite niche. What I don't want is 32-year-old Marcus Alonso on a short-term loan because he's a free transfer. I don't want some shit like that. We're Manchester United. You don't get 30-something-year-old free transfers that are going to revolutionise your season. They're a plaster on an open wound. How much deadwood is in the final year of its contract, says Jack? Maguire, Lindelof, Ericsson, McTominay. Sancho and Casemiro have got 2 or 3 years left on their contract. Thanks for the question, Matt. McTominay would be pure profit as well because he's an academy. We must sell him, says Shez. Is Shaw joining up with England in September, says Connor. I mean, there's a lot of people saying that Shaw will get himself fit for England. He won't. But if you want a reminder, that's basically what he did in the summer. He wasn't fit for Man United and he joined up with England. So it's not a bad way of looking at it. He won't join up with England this time, but that's basically what he did in the summer. Wasn't fit for Man United, went to play for England. Not right. Ultimately, not right. Anyway, look, thanks everyone for tuning in. We are back at, well, unless anything breaks before, which we're not expecting. Get another Dutch left back, maybe someone like Gertrude, says Noon. I'm back at 8 o'clock tonight. We are doing a live preview of the Fulham game because we're only 48 hours away. We're only 48 hours away from Man United playing Fulham in the Premier League. I can't believe how important this game is. And I can't believe how nervous I am. I don't normally get nervous, but it's so big. We've got to win against Fulham. Remember against Wolves last year? We were shite. We still managed to win. They should have got a penalty at the end. We've got Brighton away after that and then Liverpool at home after that. We've got to bloody beat Fulham and we can't just go into it with a smile on our face saying we're at home. It's going to be tough. It's going to be really tough. Fulham have got nothing to lose in that game. We'll be previewing it at 8 o'clock. 20,000 watching again. Nearly 21,000. Unbelievable growth and support on the channel at the moment. Thanks everyone who's getting involved. Make sure you subscribe, bottom right hand corner, and smash a like on the video. I will see you live at 8 o'clock for a preview of the Fulham against Wolves game. Sorry, Fulham against Man United game. And all the latest Man United news as well. Take care everyone. Stay safe. Want to see you later. Thanks for watching.